If you want to pass money to your kids or grandkids in retirement, but don't have a clear plan for doing it, there's a real risk of jeopardizing your own retirement and also paying a lot more tax than you should. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step process we use with our clients that will show you how much you can safely give, where the money should come from, and how to structure it so it has the potential to create real generational wealth. So when we go through this process with our clients, there's a 5-step process. Step 1, and you should be doing this if you plan to give any amount of money away with your warm hands. So step 1 is make sure you're okay. Make sure you have a clear retirement plan, know exactly where your money, how much, everything's going to be okay with you. Because at the end of the day, you need to look after yourself first. So step 1, are you going to be okay in your retirement plan? So jumping into our software, we're looking at Ross and Rachel Geller here. And again, their goal is to have about $84,000 after tax in the go-go phase, 72, and then 60. So when we built out the plan, you can see here, the real income, we're close to $100,000, $99,359. So lots more than they actually need. So again, step 1 is, are they going to be okay on their own? Let's not worry about giving and what that all looks like. Let's actually build a plan for you to make sure that you're going to be okay. Now, in Ross and Rachel's situation here, obviously they wanted 84 and scaling down through time, and they have 99. So there's a substantial amount of money to potentially give. Now, again, the next layer to this is, well, how do we do that efficiently? So step 2 is, where does the money come from? So going back to the original plan, now this is the $99,000. So I just want to go through the assets that they have, because everyone's going to be in a different situation, how much you need to spend, how much you want to give, etc. So in this situation, Ross has RSP 300,000, 105 in TFSA, and they have a joint non-registered account. And this is where the giving conversation came in. They received an inheritance of 500,000. They didn't think they needed it themselves, and were wondering, can we pass this forward? Again, the same 300,000, 105, and then 500 joint for Rachel. So if we go to the planning page, again, they have that large amount of assets, but you can see in Rachel's, we're melting this down properly. We're leveling out our tax rate. We're building up that TFSA as long as we can. So we're doing all the right things in this plan. So this is a fantastic plan. But again, the next question is, okay, they want to give money. Where do we give it from? Where does it make the most sense to give money away from? And this really becomes the fun part. How much can you give? Where should you give it from? What are the tools you can use? And again, the last 3 steps I'll cover here in a second, but jumping into the software, the next process we need to do is say, okay, Ross and Rachel, you guys wanted 84,000, 72,000, and 60,000 in the go-go, slow-go, and no-go phase of your retirement. So if we put that into the plan, we want to see, A, how much extra there is, and then start playing around with the giving. How much are we able to give to them on maybe an annual basis, on an ongoing basis every 3 or 5 years? What does that look like? So step 1, jump into the software, $84,000, $72,000, and at the end, $60,000. They've asked to build this out to age 90. You can see all types of income. So this is non-reg is depleted by about age 83. Again, they're spending less, so that non-registered lasts longer at this point until we start giving. The TFSA, we really never spend. So, we only start spending that at age 83 once a non-reg is emptied out. And again, about age 80 for the RIF is emptied out. But at the end of the day, they're going to pass away at age 90 with $2.1 million, which is not their intention. They would rather give that with a warm hand now, see kids and grandkids benefit from this, as it's money that's going to go to them anyways. So the next step in the process is, in our software that we use, Time Projections, we have this expense, additional expense. So I've listed a gift to kids. Now we can put any amount in here. I put $50,000 for now. It's going to be a joint gift. It's coming from, in this case, both Ross and Rachel. I'm not going to inflate it. So we could inflate it. Let's say, we want to give $50,000 every 3 years, but we want that to increase with inflation. That could all be built into here as well. I've just left it at 0. From what age to what age? So I've put basically from next year, age 61 for them to age 90. And then for now, put every 3 years. But again, you can put every year, every 10, 5, whatever you want to do. So we'll leave it at every 3 years. And let's just get a starting point. And this is what you need to do with your financial planner. We know we have extra money. Let's start working through what this could look like. So near the left-hand side here, we'll see expenses, additional expenses, gifts to kids. And you can see starting next year in 2027, we're giving $50,000. So 2 kids, $25,000 a piece. And we're going to do that every 3 years. So $50,000 coming out of Ross and Rachel's accounts. And you can see $50,000. The year before, we're taking 55 out of the non-reg, and then 106. So originally, that money's coming out of the non-reg. We can see 106, then it jumped 113. So that extra money, you can see it's about $50,000 different than the year before or after, roughly. So that's where the money's coming from. Now, the year when their non-reg is depleted, you can see the money's coming out of their tax-free savings account and will continue to do so. So it's a very tax-efficient plan. You can even see in the first few gifts where the money's coming out of the non-registered account, the total tax bill, like the first gift, the tax goes 48, 28. Next year it's 45, 42, but the year before 51. So it doesn't drive up a tax bill because, again, their cost base on that $500,000 was $500,000. Now, again, if you have a $500,000 non-registered account and your cost base is $50,000, then giving fully out of that non-registered account will create a taxable event for you. So it might be some from the non-reg, some from the tax-free, so you're not driving up that non-reg tax bill. So again, everyone's situation is going to be a little different here, and you need to massage that into the plan. Again, Ross and Rachel, if they had a big taxable gain, I want to say this again, if they had a large gain on that non-reg, if they were to give $50,000 and a lot of that was gains, they would be triggering a big tax bill for themselves. So maybe they want to give $15,000 or $20,000 out of there and the rest from the TFSA account and do it slower over time. And we can see here, by giving those three $50,000 gifts over the next 10 years, that TFSA or the non-registered account, is emptied out by age 69. So we could spread that out to mid to late 70s and give a bit more out of the TFSA. We have a lot of TFSA funding there. So again, we're able to give the money. We're not driving up the tax bill. Now let's see, if we do $50,000 all the way down to age 90, so last gift at 88, we still have close to $1 million, $925,000 in there. So here's a few conversations that as a financial planner, we would have with our clients. And as a client, you need to have with your financial planner is, how are these gifts going to be made? We can give $50,000 a year every 3 years, and you still are using about half of your estate to giving. So do we want to give more money maybe in the first couple gifts? Like if your kids are just getting into homes, they have mortgages, they have young families, whatever it is, maybe a bigger gift now for a down payment for a home or something like that is much more impactful. Maybe it's, well, I actually want to front end load the gifts. Like I want to give most gifts, every 3 years, but just for 3 or 5 years, so 3 or 5 gifts, not all the way to age 88. So these are things you need to think about. The other thing that I like about a plan like this, where we're giving, later, is if your lifestyle changes. Let's say you need to go to a care home, or you need extra care, or you have extra expenses you weren't expecting. Well, those gifts you can just turn off. Like it's not something you've guaranteed to your kids. In fact, you may not even tell your kids. And so it creates a lot of flexibility there. So in this case, where $50,000 works, but we're not kind of depleting, we still have a lot of money, close to $1 million left at death. This is how I would typically approach it is, okay, we can give $50,000. I like every 3 to 5 years. And I'll talk about that here in a second on why I like larger gifts less often versus an annual gift. But in this case, every 3 years works. It's a cadence they were kind of wanting. So let's look at, maybe we give $100,000 in the first 2 gifts and see what that looks like. So all we do in here, let's go $100,000 for the first gift and same for the second. We won't change any other gift. So the rest will be left at $50,000. We'll run this to see, is it sustainable and how much are we left with at the end of the day? So again, not driving up the tax bill, super important. So we're giving all that extra money, but not driving up the tax bill. And we got about $500,000 left at the end of the day. So we could probably do one more $300,000 or $100,000 gift. So let's plug that in there and see what the end result looks like. And this is, again, this is the process you should be going through with your financial planner if you're planning to give. Like this video is all about, how do I give? How do I structure it into my plan? How do I make sure I'm okay? How do I actually give out that money? How do I make sure I don't drive up the tax bill? And so if we actually look, we're about $375,000. So in this case, I would say, that's pretty good. Like it gives some buffer for you. You have a well-funded TFSA right through retirement. We're not running that thing much lower than $300,000. $291 it looks like is the lowest it gets, $286 there. So again, a nicely funded, so if they have an emergency, and again, at age 80, if you had to go to care home, we can just turn off these gifts. So if we turned off these gifts, put 0 all the way down to age 90 and reran it, because we had this additional cost of a care home, we can see that it allows us to have more money later on, obviously, and we have, again, back up to about $575 at death. So it gives us some flexibility. Like if you said, well, I need some extra money, another $10,000 for a care facility, right? And so we ran that down right? So you can see here, $10,000 a year from age 80 to 90, needing a little bit of, someone to come into your home and care and cook or whatever it was for you. And so you weren't gifting that money, it was actually for you. It's additional above that $72,000 and $60,000. We still have that buffer. So again, lots of flexibility in a plan like this. So step one was make sure you're going to be okay. Like build your plan, make sure you're going to be okay before you even start thinking about giving money to the next generation or anyone else. Step two is, where should that money come from? And you can see here, we built a plan where they were giving a lot of money, $100,000 every 3 years for the first 3 gifts, and then $50,000, and it wasn't driving up their tax bill. You need to create a plan where you're able to give, but not, write a bigger check to CRA essentially. Now, there might be a little bit of a bump in taxes that can happen, but it shouldn't be drastic. So we've settled on those 2 things. The third thing you need to do is have a conversation with your kids, grandkids, whoever this money, nieces, nephews, whoever the money is going to go to. And the conversation needs to be around, what is the intention of the gift? So again, I talked about earlier, like, are there goals to get into a house? Well, then the down payment would make sense. And this is why I talked about earlier, I like gifts less often, larger gifts less often. If you give a child $10,000 a year, that might be spent on paying some visa bills, going traveling, paying for some groceries, which can be great. But if you're looking to make a generational impact, $50,000 every 5 years is going to deposit on the house. Their mortgage is up for renewal. They can put another $50,000 down. Like, it's a bigger amount of money that will have a bigger impact. Now, again, if your child is, drowning in visa debt or something like that, any kind of debt, obviously you want to help them with that. So it's more of a conversation around them. But if you're looking to make that generational wealth transfer, larger gifts less often. Every 3 to 5 years, ideally, is kind of a good cadence to it. I find that gifts every year, and again, I've seen this for 2 decades now. Smaller gifts more often have less impact on your child, on your grandchild, or whoever you're giving it to. Larger gifts less often have a much bigger impact. So going back to step number 3, have a conversation, whoever's getting this money, right? Are you buying a home? Are you going through education? Are you starting a new career? Or whatever's happening in their life, what is the intention and what's the cadence of that money need? Like maybe it's, we're hoping to buy a house and $100,000 or $50,000 down payment would be fantastic. And then we're doing a 5-year term. So a gift every 5 years, if that's capacity you have, then that would be a fantastic timing. So when our mortgage is coming up for renewal, we can put another lump sum, lower our payments, and hopefully pay off our mortgage way sooner than we would have otherwise. Again, maybe it's we want to build up our tax-free savings account. So maybe it is an annual gift in that case, but it goes directly into the tax-free savings. Maybe it's younger kids saving up for their first home and it's through a first home savings account. So that's where you get into a little bit of the annual gifts until they've made that big transition, and then it's more, larger gifts less often. So again, have that conversation though. Maybe your kids need that money ongoing because it's, again, first home savings account. New contribution every year, TFSA, new contribution every year. So figure out what is the intention, what is the goal, what's the purpose behind the gift, and understand whoever's receiving that gift, what age and stage of life they're in so they can maximize on that gift from you. And step number 4, kind of talked about already, is what is the cadence to that gift? Like how often are you going to give that gift? And here's the big kicker, and one thing I want you to take away with. As you build out a plan and you've gone through step 1 to 3 now, you're on step 4, just remember, if you commit kind of in your head and in the plan to giving that gift of $50,000 every 3 years, know that you have that flexibility. Like if things change, and life does change, right? There could be a lot of curveballs in life. You can always turn off that gift, right? You don't make that financial commitment to them for the rest of your life. Say, hey, I'm going to give you a gift now, get you started. And then 3 years, maybe they don't know it, they're getting another gift, or every 5 years, whatever it is. But later on in life, so when you talk about the cadence and you build it into your plan, say, we can do this. Just remember, it's not locked in stone. You're able to change those gifts. Like I showed earlier, we turned off those $50,000 gifts, put an extra $10,000 every single year to help you because your life changed. You needed extra help and you wanted to make sure that you were going to be okay financially. And this is the big thing. This is why, if you're going to write a large check to your kids or someone early on in retirement, really stress test it to make sure, like, what if this happens or this? Like, am I going to be okay? Again, that is step 1. That's what you need to take care of first. And that ties us into step 5, is to make sure you stress test your plan. What does it look like if inflation rises? Or maybe a kid comes back home, or one kid needs extra help, or you need extra help, or a spouse passes away. There's so many stress tests that you can run. And again, How do you know what stress test to run in a plan like this or any type of plan? I would say, what keeps you up at night? And that's one of the first questions we ask our clients in our intake forum. What keeps you up at night? Like, what do you stress about when it comes to retirement, finances, kids, all of that? And there's lots of stressors in life. But maybe it's like for my wife, I know it's if I passed away, am I going to be financially okay? She's like, I know I'm going to be an absolute mess, but financially, am I going to be okay? Or do I have to go back to work? Or have you structured stuff in a way that I'm going to be okay moving forward? Or does my life drastically change? Like she's at home with her 4 kids raising them. Does she have to go back to work? That would completely change her life. So part of my job is to make sure that we have a structure that if I get hit by a bus today, knock on wood, that she's going to be okay. Like there's insurances coming in and stuff to take care of her going forward. That would be a stress test for my wife. Now for me, I want a stress test. Could I hire a nanny, right? Someone to help my kids, cook food, clean the house, that kind of stuff. Like that would be important to me because I'm busy running a business, taking care of my team and doing all this kind of stuff here. Now I'm at home a lot. Like I'm a very at-home parent, but there's a lot of stuff going on when you have 4 kids. So these are the things that keep us at night. What keeps you up at night? That needs to be the stress test. And let me tell you, we've done thousands of plans for Canadians. There are thousands of different stress tests. Usually people come with us, 1 or 2 that just keeps them up at night. Perfect. Let's run that, flush it through the system. So as you plan to, okay, I'm going to be okay. We can give this much. What keeps you up? Like just stress test that in the plan and say, well, if we give away $300,000 in the first 10 years and then, Ross passes away, is Rachel still going to be okay in this situation? And these are the things you need to make sure to know. Because you don't want to start giving away money and then in the back of your head, like, should we have done that? Like, did we just cost us our retirement? Are we going to be okay? Like all these questions start to creep in. You don't want those creeping in. Just flush them out in the plan. And again, in software like this, you can flush anything out, right? Like I showed you here, the $10,000. Like what is your concern, right? You could go into this situation here and go, well, what happens if Rachel or let's say Ross passed away at age 80, right? Am I going to be okay? So let's leave this at 90, go back into the planning. And let's run this to see, is she going to be okay? So we'll go into a combined view here, and I want to run this to see, like, okay, what's going to happen? So when we run this, you can see Ross passed away at age 80, and then, Rachel would still have that 50. So instead of 60, she'd have $53,000. She still has half that 10 to get help. So there's still, combined about $60,000 coming in. So again, this is just one stress test. So there's the process of building out a plan, seeing what you can give, how much, the cadence to it, and how to stress test the plan. Most of you, a lot of our viewers, have more money than they're going to spend in retirement. Now, there's a large handful that hardly are scraping by into retirement. So there's, I always say Canada has very little middle class nowadays. So if you're in a position, a privileged position where you're able to support your retirement and also support maybe kids, grandkids, charities, whatever it is, there's going to be money left over. You need to have that conversation with your financial planner on what is the plan? Do I want to give it away when I die to whoever gets it, whoever your beneficiaries are, or do you want to give it with a warm hand, right? I think most people, if they know they have a lot of extra money at death, they'd prefer to give it with a warm hand. And again, going through a process like this, it really does only work if you have that step 1 is so important, right? You got to have that foundation, and that foundation is an optimized plan. And unfortunately, so many of you are operating into retirement or through retirement without an optimized plan. Now, what does an optimized plan look like? Well, we've done a full video breakdown on that. So click on this video here to check out how to build out a fully optimized plan so you can start working through this 5-step process that we talked about today.